Hello, anatomists and physiologists. Michelle Glass here, and thank you for joining me for another one of our Chapter 1 videos. And the topic for this presentation is that long-awaited conversation on homeostasis. So when we talk about the body and when we talk about every body system, we'll see that the main thing that's happening, the main physiological principle for the body is this idea of homeostasis. And when we think about regulating homeostasis in the body, even though it is the primary principle and all organ systems are involved, we can really think about this as being the job of the nervous system and endocrine system. And remember the difference, one of the big differences between these systems is that the nervous system is doing that fast adjustment, whereas the endocrine, which I misspelled there, yikes, endocrine system is more long-term regulation. And so what do we actually mean by homeostasis? What we actually mean by homeostasis is the internal body conditions. These are regulated around what we call a set point. So the set point is the optimal working conditions for the chemistry of your body. So there's a set point for your temperature, right? We already talked about that in humans as being, on average 37 degrees Celsius or 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is an example of a set point. We'll see the pH of different parts of the body will have a set point. So the stomach pH will be different from the small intestine, which is different from the bloodstream and so forth. We'll have a fluid set point. We'll have electrolyte set point. We'll have blood pressure set point. We'll have, an oxygen saturation set point, right? So all these different components of the body that influence the way that our cells work have to be regulated around a set point. And so when we talk about homeostasis, what we really see is we're going to keep these conditions, we could say balanced, around a normal range. So if this is our set point here, let's say this is our body temperature, textbook average 37 degrees Celsius. And let's say you were walking from your car in a hurry to get to class on time. And so you're all wrapped up in your coat and you're working fast and your skeletal muscle is generating heat. And so your body heats up just a little bit. And as you come into class and you have a seat and then the air conditioning is on, and you've sweated a little bit in your walk to class, and so your body starts to cool down. And so maybe then you put your jacket back on, and then you're getting closer to your stable set point, right? And so realistically, we are fluctuating around that set point all the time. Another example of this is for me this morning, I've been drinking quite a lot of coffee, right? Which is a diuretic. And so I have dehydrated my body a little bit. I've been making videos, so I've been talking quite a lot. And so my mouth is feeling very dry. My body is very dry. So I need to take a drink. Just so you know, I'm reusing my straw here. So I have a little scrubby brush and I clean it. And so this unavoidable straw becomes a reusable straw, right? Okay. And so I'm rehydrating, right? And if I take on more fluid than I actually need, right? If I just gulp it down and take care of that thirst, but I have more fluid than I actually need, I just make a little trip to the bathroom. And then so it's all being regulated in this way, right? So this is what we're talking about when we're talking about maintaining homeostasis. Now, there's two different mechanisms that are involved in the regulation of homeostasis. So these mechanisms that are involved are called your negative feedback mechanism and your positive feedback mechanism. Now, sometimes we get tricked up here because in English language, we use the term negative to mean like, ew, that's undesirable, right? That's bad. And then we use the word positive, like, yay, everything's happy and great. We love it. And it's important to pay attention here that this is not in any way, shape, or form how these words are being used in this case. So when we talk about negative feedback, what we're really doing is saying that we're negating the stimulus. Okay, so when we say the term negative here, we mean that we are negating the stimulus, or we're going in the opposite direction. This is how some people will phrase it, opposite direction of the stimulus. Or in our textbook, it says that we are reversing the deviation, which means from set point. So what we're really saying here is the example of body temperature, right? Where I said, you jump out of the car, you're racing to class, you've got all your coat on and everything. And as your skeletal muscle is working to get you to class on time, maybe to the pressure of like, oh, I'm going to be late. Your body starts to heat up, right? And so a response to that would be some sweating, right? And so that sweating is important because it's helping to cool your body. Also, your blood is going to move to your extremities and to your skin so that some of that heat can be evaporated out or released out into the atmosphere, right? And so then as you sit down and you start to kind of cool down in the classroom because of those physiological changes, right? And the body starts to cool down, and then maybe you need to warm yourself back up, right? And so you can make a change, a conscious change to put that coat back on to warm your body back up. So in each case, you were too hot, and then there are changes to cool your body down. So that's going the opposite direction. You're too cool, and you make changes to warm the body up. You're going the opposite direction. When we talk about negative feedback mechanisms, I like to think about my set point here, and I go above and I bring it back down to the set point, which in some cases takes me too low, and I come back up to my set point. So you should think about, or I like to think about, a negative feedback mechanism as like a figure eight. And it's important to pay attention here that this is happening all the time. This is just a regular mechanism of the body. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're way outside of that set point. It could just be these little adjustments based on your activity, based on what you've eaten, based on what you had to drink, and so forth. Okay. On the other side of things, we have positive feedback mechanism. And so this is kind of like the opposite sort of response. Now, it's equally important, it's equally common in the body, but in this case, instead of saying we're going to go to the opposite direction, we're going to go in the same direction of the stimulus. I feel like that needs to be rewritten. Okay. We can also talk about it as intensifying the change. But it is important that at some point it's going to end. So it's going to be a response that needs an end point. Now, there are several classic examples that are given for positive feedback mechanism. The example I want to give is defecation, because this is an example that we're feeling, and we're feeling this probably every day or so in our bodies. And we've been feeling this, for all of our time on the planet, right? So in the case of a positive feedback mechanism, you can think of it as sort of like a snowball effect. So you're going along just fine, right? And then you might feel that fecal material has moved in toward the rectum. And as that happens, you're going to feel pressure building, and that pressure information makes its way to the brain. So you become consciously aware of it. As this response continues, you have muscle contraction moving more fecal material down into the rectum. And so you're becoming more and more aware, more and more aware, more and more aware, right? And you're continuing this response. So this signaling is more contraction, more movement, more contraction, more movement, more contraction, more movement, until you're able to make your way to the bathroom, right? And don't know why it looks like that. And in the stimulus, right? So upon defecation, all of that feeling, all of that buildup of pressure dissipates. Take a look in your textbook. Remember, it's linked in the video. Read the section on homeostasis, and there are several great examples of both negative feedback mechanisms and positive feedback mechanisms. Remember, this is the primary physiological process of the body. So as we go through the course, we'll be investigating specific examples of negative feedback, and we'll be investigating specific examples of positive feedback. So this is something that you definitely want to have a good foundation for as you move forward in the course. Stay tuned also for our next video. And as always, take care of yourselves and each other.